Hi, my name is Angela. Welcome to my channel. I'm going to do a flip-through review of Ryder Carroll's book, The Bullet Journal Method. Okay, so let's get started. To begin, I want to let you know that I read nonfiction books usually using lots of page flags, and I make notes on the page flags, and I actually write in books. I own this book, and when I started reading this book, I knew that I would use the information in this book in actual practice, so I wanted to make sure that I marked pages for reference later and for writing a review. So let me explain how I do this using sticky notes and the front matter on the blank pages. So the sticky notes are color-coded for different kinds of things that I'll talk about as we go through. And one other thing that I do that I got in the habit of doing when I was in graduate school is making notes on the left-hand side, like this. So I'll write a page number when something strikes me, and then I'll make a note or write a quote there. And so I'm effectively creating an index, in my own index, in the book. I usually stick some various sticky notes that I plan to use for color coding. I decide ahead of time what I'm going to use them for, and then I have them here available for me. I usually have a bag of sticky notes too, in case I need to add some different kinds of sticky notes. So with the transparent sticky notes here, this type, I usually mark the index, which I didn't do this time. This is the index, which in library world, I'm a librarian, we would call the table of content. In the back, I marked with this transparent sticky note the footnotes or references. So that's how I use those transparent sticky notes. So I have the index going and then the sticky notes going. So the first thing that I want to talk about are the things that I plan to, components that I plan to put in my setup. And I have marked those with these lime green sticky notes here. And you can see there's a list of them. So let's start there. So the first thing that in the book that Ryder asked the reader to do is to create a mental inventory. And so this was a good exercise. I've already done a mental inventory in another book, and I plan to move my mental inventory and revise it into my bullet journal setup when I set that up. Another component that I intend, or components that I intend to include in my bullet journal, are these key components, or key concepts as he calls them. And so I'll be adding these to my bullet journal. It includes the index, future log, monthly log, daily log, rapid logging, collections, and migrations. And just so you know, the rest of the book is pretty much an in-depth review of his philosophy on how to use these various concepts and how they contribute to your sense of satisfaction and well-being even, and productivity. So the next lime green sticky note, which are components that I want to add, is I really liked this chart, the bullet journal reflection cycles. My cat Buffy has decided to join me, so I hope she doesn't knock anything over. Gonna have to move you, Buff. Okay, Buffy's joining us. That's fine. So I will be adding a copy of this. I'll draw my own out, this bullet journal reflection cycle. And on the sticky note, I'll say something like page 138, include this in my bullet journal. Copy this to a page is the note I made to myself. We'll come back to what the blue sticky note is. Of course, I intend to have a goals collection, and I'll probably include something like this. Goals give us the opportunity to define what we want. I like that idea. And then I'm going to copy this to a page. It's the daily schedule, and so as Ryder says, productivity is in large part a matter of consistency. Once you get it out of your head that you have to work at breakneck speed, you can focus on the process. And so for his bullet journal method, there's this daily schedule process, which includes an AM reflection and ends with a PM reflection. He uses lots of charts like this. I like charts. I have an affinity for charts, and so I will be copying this just as an example into my bullet journal. Gratitude log, I found this section very, very helpful. Every day, once a day, give yourself the present of savoring the good in your life. And that's what the bullet journal log or the gratitude log is all about, is savoring the good in your life. And maybe you do this during a meditation, a daily meditation practice, but it's nice to have it all written down so that you can review it, go back to it. The next lime green sticky note has to do with learning. So I intend to have a learning collection, and I'm going to add that to my bujo. And that's all I'm going to say about this right now. The green sticky note is just an indicator that I want to include this as a component in my bullet journal. The next lime green sticky note is a list with context. And so this is just a regular list with a time, date, and location. So that's the context aspect of it. I'm planning a trip with a friend in January, and I think that we could make some good use of this. I'll also include an itinerary. We are not going to Hawaii, but we are going to a fun place, and she and I will have a great time there because we like to plan out things like this. Okay, so the next set of notes are let's see, I'll turn my notes over, the blue-green stickies. So the blue-green stickies are the ones at the bottom of the book. And the blue-green stickies are processes to use in the system. So I kind of break things up into components and processes and then rationale, philosophy, thoughts, models, matters like that. So this is a process, and this future log cycle I found very useful. So I'll be copying this future log cycle and using this future log cycle in my bullet journal. And it includes this whole daily log, reflection, put it in the future log if it needs to, and then there's a migration process which would go into the next month's monthly log. And so that's how I'm going to try this. I'm kind of trying a more or less pure version of bullet journaling with a little bit of Frankenstein planning in there. Migration, the process of migrating, I'm going to include the monthly process. So there's a little blurb here that tells you how to do the migration of your tasks, which is an important process in the bullet journal method. I like this idea of asking yourself what has meaning, and so one of the processes that the book has you do is to conduct a post-mortem, and so you read an obituary on yourself, and you create a 2 lives collection, and he explains that process. And so this is how you get to meaning and connect what you're doing and recording in your bullet journal to the processes in the bullet journal. So the bullet journal is more than just a place to collect notes. It's also a place where you can refer back to hopefully improve your life. There are some exercises in practice for setting goals. I like this idea. The seed of passion is curiosity. The seed of perseverance is patience. So in practice, what I love about this book is, I said I have a lime green sticky note. I'll definitely include goals. And I'm also going to include and use this process of the 5, 4, 3, 2, 1 exercise. So there are a lot of exercises. Probably if you've done any productivity, planning, reading, the exercises may not be new to you, but I like the point at which he introduces them, and then connects it to the use of a bullet journal. So the next blue-green sticky note includes this, how to set up a bullet journal. And so I love his hand-drawn images, and you can set up your index, so you can follow this step by step, set up index, set up the future log, and so on and so forth. On this right-hand side of the page, it says that this is optional. Review your mental inventory and then migrate your mental inventory. So it's a little bit like that, including custom collections. So that's, again, connecting meaning to use in the bullet journal. Positive reflections, I already said that I would use, practicing reflection. I can't read my own notes. I love this. Reflection is the nursery of intentionality. So this is a process. Remember, the blue-green is process. So I will be including a reflection process and follow the instructions here on the page. What has meaning? This is, you write for yourself a little obituary and really get into it on the paper, and then you read your obituaries. And so it's using this obituary process really to help you decide what has meaning in your life. The next blue-green process that we want to take a look at is a custom collection. And so the idea of custom collections, you're not limited to just having lists as collections. Collections can be a sort of project management kind of process here. And so I am in the process of writing a novel, and I just made a note for myself to say that writing a novel would be a special collection. So for now, that's how I'm going to think of including my novel writing in addition to my full-time job and trying to establish a YouTube channel. Writing a novel is going to be in that, so I can track how I'm doing on that. Do some reflection too, see if it's where I really want to go. And then of course I'm going to use a habit tracker. I currently do use a habit tracker in my bullet journals process now that I currently use my planning process. It's not quite like this, but I do find tracking my workouts and not just tracking workouts, but tracking the type of exercise that I do so that I get cross-training. And I like to track meditation, and then I'm have new contact lenses, and sometimes they make my eyes dry, and so I'm trying to track how many hours a day I can wear those before my eyes start getting really dry. And so that takes care of all the blue-green sticky notes. The hot green, bright green notes are things that I want to make sure that I copy into my system. In other words, they are tools, and this tool is the AM, PM, monthly, and year reflection cycle. So there's a reflection cycle. I just want to make a note of that. So it'll be, my bullet journal will end up being my own personal workbook. There's a process here that I want to make sure that I write down until I learn how to use it better. It's that 5, 4, 3, 2, 1 exercise. So I'll just write that down. That way I don't have to have the book with me if I want to do, as I'm doing a 5, 4, 3, 2, 1 process. This is the questions to ask yourself. What do you want to do? What do I want to do? Why do I want to do it? What small things can I do right now to get you started? So the bullet journal. Hi, Buffy. The bullet journal process is all about setting goals that have meaning, breaking the goals down into small tasks that are doable so that you can see, hi, Buffy, she's not helpful. Bye, Buffy. Breaking those tasks down and putting them in time slots where you know you can do them. So it's a sort of step-by-step process. There's a plan, do, check, act, Deming cycle. You guys may all be familiar with the Deming cycle, which is that whole idea of is it. Now she just wants to play over here. Sorry. Recognizing opportunities where you can plan change and identifying what's important, what's urgent, things like that. What's not urgent but important. And then you have some reflection questions. I will have a learning collection. I'm a lifelong learner, and I like learning new skills. I like trying out new things. So I'll have a learning collection. And then in that, I like this idea of asking myself, what am I learning? What lesson has inspired me to learn? What do I want to know more about? So librarians, I am going to go ahead and generalize. We often get exposed to lots of different things that we get curious about, and we'll just go off on a tangent and start thinking about them and writing and learning about them. And instead of just creating a big wiki that's useless in my head, a big wiki head, I'd rather actually have those things that I learn contribute to my having a meaningful life, if that makes any sense. We'll see how that goes. So the next tabs are the large tab sticky notes, which are notes to myself about the process. So this is me kind of talking to the book and how I can actually use it for myself. So I like using these big tab sticky notes. I have stacks of them. And yes, this is upside down. Just that's how it happened. And so I have made for myself notes. As I'm reading the book, I'm thinking I have a Hobonichi Techo and a Hobonichi cousin on order, scheduled to come in sometime in December. I also use a Hobonichi Weeks. And so I switch my planner from strings to rings all the time. So I'm thinking forward in the future about setting up a personal ring as a Bujo system, a TN, a traveler's notebook as a Bujo system. Maybe not an Erin Condren. I think I've already ruled that out, but I'll use some aspects. And then I will also be, setting up my Hobonichi, cousin, and Techos as a sort of bullet journal. So translating what I've learned in this book to those other forms of, paper. And then this note, what did I say here? So far, all of this is great, but I have to also plan projects and tasks, large, long-term projects into my daily tasks. So the process doesn't seem good for a manager of projects. And I'm trying to come to grips with how I can still use this system, and I'll be pushing the envelope, I think, to try and make the bullet journal system work for me for managing large tasks. And I think it's going to end up with me just getting and having and creating lots of special collections. Getting to goals, I want to make sure that I do this capture, reflection, awareness, meaning seeking. That probably could have gone into processes, but at the moment I was thinking about what this means for me. Remember I said that I would copy this little chart to my bullet journal, and I wanted to make sure that I am, doing these processes. I don't know. Frankly, sometimes I go through these books. I read this book in about 6 hours. It was over 2 or 3 days. It was a pretty easy read, but it's very, very useful because you can put it into practice. Okay, so I will be here's where I came to the conclusion of custom collections could incorporate the project management aspect of using a Bujo. So this is me talking to myself and the book, and that's what I have decided to do. There's one more large sticky note, and I just had some thoughts about how I could use a list. And there's even, I think he mentioned some idea of using digital planning also, or, Google Docs. Sharing a Google Doc and deciding on, for some reason I decided that for my friend who does not live near me, we could share a Google Doc and create a list for the trip. And then just so that we both plan, put down on the list things that we both want to do. Okay, so that's it. I'll probably buy the book in paperback when it comes out. I really love this book. I had fun reading it. I love how honest and open Ryder Carroll is as he talks about how he came to write this book. I currently teach a program management course in to undergraduates in higher education, and I'm thinking that there might be some aspects of this book that we could use in the class to think about managing whole projects. So, good, nice size, hardback book, lightweight, easy to handle. It's a sewn binding and it lays open flat. I have cracked open my spine several times. I love the design of the book, and the end pages, if you had noticed, are the bullet journal symbols that you use in your bullet journal. Okay, that's it for now. Remember that you can go and read my written review. I'll post a link to it down below. And thanks for watching. If you enjoyed this video and you'd like to see other book reviews or more information about the Bullet Journal Method book or how I use my bullet journal, please comment down below. Goodbye and thanks for watching. May you be happy and may you be peaceful. Bye now.